It is the rhythm of the city, 94.3 WYBC. I'm Wanda Coppage back with you with another episode of The Electric Drum on a Sunday evening. I do hope your Sunday is being great to you. I am here with a wonderful person. I can't wait to talk to him and for you to hear from him, especially if you are one of our Hamden listeners. You're going to want to hear, pull up a chair to your speaker so you can hear everything this man has to say. His name is Walter Morton the Fourth. He is, amongst other things, he's running for mayor. He's a Hamden mayoral candidate and a Connecticut resident. And we're going to get all up in his business because he actually does work for the Hamden Board of Ed as well. So, first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here this evening with you, Wanda. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Let's jump right on in there, starting
Okay.
with the fact that we will get into the fact that you are running for mayor a little later. But are you from Hamden?
Yes. Born and raised, technically born at Yale New Haven Hospital, but raised and spent the entirety of my life, the 31 years so far in Hamden, aside from college and the military. But Hamden has always been home.
I was going to try some way, somehow, to get you to reveal your age without me asking. And you just did that for me. So thank you. Because you are the youngest mayoral candidate in Hamden, correct?
Yes, I am. I am at the moment. So yeah, I actually never thought about it, but yeah, I am a bit younger than the current mayor, who I'm running against on the election day, which is September 12th. I think we're
Mhm.
95 days out at this point, so getting close, getting to the final act of the movie. But it's been going well. But yeah, I'm 31. Spent my whole life in Hamden. I've been involved in politics. Locally for a while, actually, ever since really becoming voting age. I worked former Mayor Scott Jackson's
Mhm.
first race as an intern just out of high school, actually, when I graduated Hamden High in 2009. I was recruited and given an internship at the time by Adam Sindroff, his campaign manager. Um, Another Hamden guy, and loved it. It was fun. It was great. I knew I always wanted to get involved in politics and kind of pursue that as a career, beyond voting regularly. Studied political science and econ, joined the military. And then when I got back home, got involved again locally. But that was my first foray into politics here in Hamden. And I'm a current Board of Ed member. Been on the Board of Education for just about 7 years, actually, and the current chair of its finance committee as well.
Okay. So at what age would you say you said to yourself, I'm going to be in politics? That is what I'm doing.
Yeah, something kind of clicked for me for that my freshman year of high school, actually. I had a phenomenal history teacher. He taught modern world, Mark Gabriel, and always loved history, right? Just learning about different cultures or civilizations, American history, the past, right? How we all kind of arrived, what's been our story as a species. And he was a phenomenal teacher, very engaging, but specifically what really interested me that freshman year at Hamden High was Mr. Gabriel was also very much into foreign policy and national security, and he
Mm.
taught an elective for upperclassmen on foreign policy. So oftentimes we would have sidebar conversations about current events, and it was a pretty um, interesting time, I guess, to get involved in paying attention to the news and politics, because that was kind of the height, the mid 2000s of our war in Afghanistan and Iraq and things that were going on in the world. And I just found it fascinating
Yeah.
and still do. And um, I eventually took that elective class when I became an upperclassman. And I was like, I want to do something in politics and government, because I see it as a way to affect a lot of change for the better, in my opinion, which is what I'd like to do, and help people, right, and give back, and it's important. So it just clicked because of Mr. Gabriel, and here I am, many years later now, running for mayor of Hamden.
Nice. I want to ask, you kind of have an edge with running for mayor in Hamden. You grew up in Hamden, you went to schools in Hamden, you're on the Hamden Board of Education. What would you say are some of the big changes that you've noticed throughout the years in the city of Hamden? What has changed the most? Both
Yeah,
good and bad.
yeah. There's been a lot of. I'll start with the good changes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's probably still been the majority of the changes overall. But Hamden has definitely it's grown a bit in size. It's gotten a lot more diverse as a town, which is awesome. Um, and it's still it always has been a really great place to live. Good schools, quality public safety. But the biggest change that I've seen really the past decade, a little more though, is it seems as that the town government at least is stagnating a bit, and we haven't had a vision of what we want Hamden to be.
Okay.
And when you don't have a vision, you can't have a plan to get there, right? Got to have a vision first and work back from there and figure out what you need to do. And unfortunately, for many years in Hamden, the biggest issue in town now that affects everything is our financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
So Hamden, of all the municipalities in the state on a per capita basis or household basis, rather, is the most indebted municipality in the state. And as a result, we have the second highest tax rate. So how did we get here? For many, many decades, and we're going back to even before I was alive, and even my parents to some extent, the town of Hamden was not paying into its pension plan. Um, so the town offers its employees a pension. Employees, as they're working for 20, 30 years, however long they work for the town of Hamden, they pay a small portion out of every check into the pension fund. The
Right.
town's supposed to also pay a portion every year, and then that money is taken and invested over a period of years. So that way, when the person retires, they can receive a pension benefit. And pensions are great, provide stability for folks later on in life, allows them to retire. It's also an incentive to attract employees. Employees showed up, did their part, fulfilled their obligations, did their job, retired. But come to find out, the town wasn't paying its portion. And
Wow.
so after decades and decades of this mismanagement, and about the late 2000s, right around 2010, our pension fund was so underfunded. It was in the single digits. It's supposed to be 100% funded, right? We were in the single digits. It was so concerning. There were questions about whether or not we would be able to make payroll for our retirees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so at that point, the town decided to borrow money from Wall Street. They bonded the money to put into the pensions to help shore it up so they can meet payroll. But like anything else, when you borrow money, you have to pay it
Pay it
back
back. Right.
plus interest, right? And it was a lot of money in addition to the other things that government bonds for on a regular basis and things that are considered to be good uses of bonded money, right? To build schools or pave roads, invest in infrastructure or long-term things that add value and there will be a return on over years. It's not good government practice at all to borrow money to meet operational yearly expenditures, right? That's money that should be coming from revenues that are raised through property taxes or permitting fees when you want to build something or things of that nature. So we're paying debt service for traditional things that every municipality bonds for, but then we have a large portion of money also going toward um, debt service to repay for the pensions. And as a result of all those decades of not paying into the pension, the town of Hamden has to pay a very large yearly payment into the pension. Um, and it's called an ARC payment, the actuarially required contribution. So the actuaries who determine how much money you need in the pensions, how it should be paid, um, as a result of us, we're somewhere in the low 40% funded now.
Mm-hmm.
You still want to get to 100. We still have a lot of work to do. But because we're so underfunded at this point, now the town's payment every year is bigger than it would be if we had just paid as we went along, right?
My question to you, and I know you said it's happened decades before your time, but in your opinion, in your research, because you sound very well informed, how did that happen? How did decades slip by without it being realized that it was not being met on Hamden's end?
Yeah. It's I kind of asked myself that, but I see this in government. Our financial issues at the local level have some similarities to the state's financial situation. The state also, for many decades, was not making payments at all into its pension plan. And it was something where, I look at it this way, Wanda, if I came to you and said, hey, can I borrow $30 and I'll pay you back a dollar a year over the next 30 years, that's pretty manageable.
Mm-hmm.
But if I decide to not pay you that dollar a year and don't start paying you until year 20, now I got to pay you $3 a year for the next 10 years, right? To get to that 30 ultimately. Um, so I think what happened is folks maybe one year decided not to do it because, oh, it's such a small amount, we'll be fine. I have also heard from people who were former council folks and mayors going back years and years that uh, some folks took the approach that, well, the money we were supposed to put in will make it up because the market is doing so well, right?
Okay.
And it won't make a difference, but that didn't necessarily happen. And when the Great Recession, happened and the stock market bottomed out, it took a lot of that money that was there away, right?
Happening.
The assets that they invest the money in is not worth as much, and that's how we ended up in that situation. So to me, it's still kind of crazy to kind of understand and see why that was the case. But also, another part I think is that by not making those payments, it meant one of two things. They could keep taxes lower,
Mm-hmm.
or they could take that money and spend it on other things that people in the community might see on a daily basis, right? And so I think that's what happens. There's a lot of competing interests when it comes time to do budgets.
Yeah.
Monitoring the mill rate, which property taxes, monitoring what projects and things folks think should be done. So it's an interesting process. It's an interesting process.
And if you keep stuffing things in the closet, meaning waiting and putting it off, eventually it's going to fall out. And you're going to have a
Exactly.
huge problem on your
Exactly.
hands. Okay.
Exactly.
If you are just tuning in, this is Walter Morton the fourth. He is one of the Hamden mayoral candidates. We're speaking to him about his time growing up as a Hamden resident. And I just asked the question, since he's been here, he's seen it firsthand, and now he's running for mayor. What would you say the biggest differences are in Hamden? And we spoke a bit about the financial debt that Hamden is in. Anything else you want to add to the question?
No, I mean that's the biggest issue. I mean, folks, ask me why I run, and
Hmm.
I told them, it's a community that I grew up in, and it very much raised me, and it's
Absolutely.
been very good to me and my family for many generations. I'm third generation, and I've got a great nephew actually now, and so my family's been here for 5 generations. We went to the public schools. My family's done very well here and thrived, and it's given us a lot of opportunities, and myself, and that means something to me. My
Hmm.
mother, in high school, she unfortunately passed away my senior year of high school at the beginning of breast cancer. But one of the last conversations I had with her, she told me to never forget where I came from and the
Absolutely.
people who helped me along the way. And so, I see this town that has been great to me and the opportunity it's provided me, my family, other people, friends in the community. And to see over the past decade, as the taxes have gone up and up, and the cuts that have been made to the services that the town offers, right? And I see that firsthand the last 7 years on the Board of Ed. I got on and wanted to do my part to give back to the school district and just play my role, and be a little bit of the change I'd like to see. But that is tough to do when the town doesn't have the money to
Yeah.
afford those things. Um, and it's frustrating. So, my 7 years on the board, 6 of those 7 years were years where we were either flat funded, where we got zero, new dollars, or we got less than we asked for increases to do other things. And you've got to then make decisions about, you know, wants versus needs, right? And so
Yeah.
some of the great programming and things that we had in years past that I benefited from, we've had to cut or downsize and shift to other areas to, still provide an education and a quality one, but it's not as robust as I think our children deserve and need, and what residents would like to see of our school district either.
Well, that's a good point. I didn't expect to get to it so soon, but since we're here, let's stay here. It's nice when you have a heart for the town, like you said that you do. You have to have a vision. What is yours?
Yeah, my vision is this. Hamden's It's been a great town, a thriving town that's been good to many different folks and families for many, many years. And in the past decade, and I hear it now when I'm, knocking doors, there's a lot of concern among residents about whether Hamden is that place that it used to be and whether people are really getting the value, for what they're paying to live here.
And meaning,
Um,
like, is it still safe, considered a safe town like it was before?
Yeah, it's not as safe as it used to be, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's certainly been an increase in some more high-profile types of
Mhm.
crimes, car robberies or purse snatching that's taking place in the plaza, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't think the solution is all going to come from the local level, but we can definitely be better in our response and our approach, and I feel that that's been lackluster and that's unfortunate, right? I mean, nobody wants to live in a community that, if they have a choice and a say in the matter, that is unsafe by their definition, right?
Right.
And that means different things to different folks too, right? So, my vision is this. I see that our biggest issue is our finances.
Mhm.
Because we're so indebted, a lot of taxpayer dollars every year are going to debt service and the ARC payment, which means it's not going into other things that people see, like road paving, our schools, or public safety, for example. So, what's happened is our taxes have gone up, but the missed opportunity, and this is what really motivates me and drives me to run, is how do we stabilize taxes and get it to a point where we can lower it while meeting our financial obligations, our debt service obligations, and then our services we provide to residents, right?
Mhm.
Education, public safety, so on and so forth. And the thing that we can do as a municipality to get our heads around this issue is grow our tax base. Um, how do we attract more businesses to come to Hamden and open up and operate? How do we attract more people to come live in Hamden, right?
Yeah.
Young families, single working professionals, even, retirees and senior folks. The more folks that are living in Hamden or opening and running businesses in Hamden, means that there's more people paying taxes, which means there's more revenue to that can be used to, again, pay down debt service or put in programming. But if you generate enough yearly revenue that's higher than your expenses, you don't have to raise taxes. So
Mm.
just to give you a comparison, right next door to me in North Haven, Mike Frieda, in last year's budget, they have done such a phenomenal job of attracting businesses, encouraging growth, attracting residents and families. He was able to increase spending on programming that his community members wanted, education, before after school programs, road paving, etc., but also lowered the tax rate. So people were paying less in taxes but getting more because there was so much growth, right? There was a
That's
greater number
outstanding.
of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's great work, and I feel if we can get our head around the financial issue and grow the tax base, we can stop raising taxes. We're the second highest tax municipality in Connecticut, second to only Hartford, and give folks breathing room.
Are
Give
you
folks breathing
planning
room.
to possibly model the North Haven plan if
Um,
elected?
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Hamden, is different than North Haven, but there's a lot of similarities, and we
Mhm.
have a lot of things going for us as a town, and a lot of potential, a lot of great physical assets and space, and existing economic corridors that are in need of redevelopment. Our planning and zoning regulations, which are essentially, it's the blueprint for how a town's to be developed. If it's a residential neighborhood, if it's commercial, if it's
Right.
industrial, how big a building has to be, how many parking spaces are needed for a facility. That's all in the planning and zoning regulations. And the single biggest impediment to growing our grand list is our planning and zoning regulations. They're pretty outdated, rather conservative in nature, and haven't kept pace with time. So as a result, Hamden has been known to not be friendly toward business, which is unfortunate. And there's definitely, there's a great market here and people that are working and need to spend their money on things, whether it's a place to live or food on their table or, miscellaneous things, entertainment activities. So there's people here with money and there's opportunity, but we have to do a better job as a town of attracting those folks and making it easier for them to come do business here. Um, North Haven's been great at it. Naugatuck, for example, Pete Hess, the mayor out there, Aaron Stewart, for example, is really good at it. I think Luke Bronin, outgoing mayor of Hartford, has been good about the economic development portion of the job and trying to grow their municipality's tax base and make it just a more attractive and vibrant place for people to live.
To
So
people to
I'm
live.
looking to steal ideas and best practices from folks that have done it already. You
And
know,
it works, and it's proven to work. Absolutely.
yes,
And
yes.
speaking of attracting folks, campaigning, how has campaigning been for you? Tell us a little bit about your campaign.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's been a lot of work. I announced in March that I'm running as a Democrat in the primary. So I first have to win the Democratic primary on September 12th before
Mm-hmm.
getting to the general in November. Um, but I announced in March and got a team together, and the fundraising's been great. I had an awesome first quarter. I was able to outraise the incumbent by just a little over 4 to 1. So that was great. The support, the momentum that we have, people lining up to volunteer and get involved and doing everything from helping with talking about ideas, knocking doors, making phone calls, all the little nitty gritty things that need to get done to make a campaign a successful one, an effective one, and successful on September 13th. It's been happening, and it's good. I tell you what, though, it's my first time, so I've worked on a lot of races, managed campaigns for other individuals over
Mhm.
the years. The last two governors, folks in state senate, state house, even Congress. But it's different now being a candidate for a bigger race like this, right? The Board of Ed race is not nearly as competitive by any means.
Of course not.
So it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort and kind of juggling that with the responsibilities I have with my full-time occupation. I'm still very much on the Board of Ed and involved in doing what I need to do to be, an effective member of that body, and then campaigning. But it's nice though. Work is pretty light for me over the summers with what I do, so I can dedicate the time needed to be out in the community, taking my vision, my ideas, door to door, and neighborhood to neighborhood.
Why now? As you said, you've worked with many others in establishing their campaign. Why this moment for you right now?
Yeah, I feel like of all the moments since I've been in politics and elected office, this is, I think the timing's good. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with how things are going in Hamden. There's been a lot of dissatisfaction with how the current administration's handling things. And it also, I also got tired of hearing from people who, complain about things or, say, oh, the town's not as good as it used to be, or it's this issue. And someone who grew up here, and I take pride in this town and the community and its people, I take that personally. And my old man, complaining was not allowed in the Morton household. It still isn't. And my dad would always say, we don't complain. He hates complaining. And he'd say, don't talk about it, be about it.
Find
And
a
so I said,
solution.
I'm going to find my solutions and do my part, and go talk to residents and offer my vision and plan, and try to get and do my part in concert with others to get this town back on the right track and head it in the right direction. And I don't think we're too far off from that, but I'm simply looking to provide, my vision, my ideas, my leadership, and offer some solutions and doing so in a collaborative manner as well.
Nice. Do you have any siblings?
I do. Older brother, younger sister. Older brother is he's firefighter in New Haven, battalion chief actually, and my younger sister lives in Atlanta with her family, and she actually just this year opened up a business doing hair and makeup.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
Atlanta's a
So
great place for that too.
yes, she's doing well for herself.
What about immediate family? Any children? Married?
I am not married and do not have any children yet.
Okay.
So
Yep. Okay, we put that out there.
one day, would like to get there, but just not yet, just not yet.
How has your family members been supporting you with what you're doing?
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's the support. There's a lot of planning and thought that went into making this decision, and I thought about it for honestly a good year, and entertained it and before making the decision to run. And I wanted to make sure that I had my ducks lined up and was going to be able to run a good race, an effective one, and a meaningful one. And I wanted to be very intentional about how things were going to happen. And things very much lined up, and got a feedback and support and planned for a lot of stuff. But I'll say the support for my race, for people in Hamden, family,
Hmm.
friends, has been even better than I could have hoped or prayed for, honestly. So
Nice.
that's been awesome, and it's been it's been very humbling. It's also quite a bit of pressure, as you might imagine, just
Mhm.
that there are so many people kind of counting on you and looking to you, and I'm going to do my part to make sure that I'm working as hard as possible and controlling my efforts, and not let people down. The folks that believe in me and have expressed support and saying they're voting for me or working with me. I don't want to let those people down.
Absolutely. My question to you is, I read your bio. You have, as you mentioned, you're on the Hamden Board of Education.
Yeah.
You have a military background. We got to dig into that as well. And you've also worked with Governor Lamont.
Yes. Yep. And Governor Malloy too on the campaign side.
Nice. So my question to you is, and feel free to jump wherever you want to go with that. How has each position readied you for where you are now with this campaign? What are you bringing
Yeah.
from those to this?
Absolutely. There's I firmly believe that, every day, every interaction I have with people, there's a lesson in there to be learned and a reason. And I very much, used, I take every day as an opportunity just to learn more and try to
Mhm.
be a better person, than I was the day before. And so being able to work those campaigns and understand what it takes to run a campaign, the operation, the hours and hours that go into it, the volunteers, the staff, and to be able to have experienced a good level of success and being involved in other people's campaigns, it's been immensely helpful, either in things that I've learned directly as I let this seem to work, let's do it, but also, seeing things that don't work, right? Finding out, well, maybe here's a couple of ways how not to do something ideally.
Right.
So it's helped me to understand the campaign side of things to get into elected office. But then I've also worked, outside of campaign seasons, worked in Hartford at the Capitol for the Senate president. So I also got to see the day to day of running government, the bill making process, working with advocates and community members, other elected folks, how to develop a budget and
Mhm.
implement a budget. The Board of Ed experience, the largest single piece of the town's budget is overall budget is the budget for the Board of Education,
Yeah.
which in total is a little over $100 million. And
Jeez.
so being on the finance committee for a couple of years and then eventually becoming the chair and of that committee, and the Board of Ed only has three responsibilities. It's to develop and implement a budget, determine public school policies, and select a superintendent. So to kind of be tasked with developing that budget and implementing it and then managing it over the course of the fiscal year has been so eye-opening and helped me to understand, the drivers on what can increase the budget, what can lower the budget, other outside factors. It's been phenomenal, on the job training. And so I finally felt that I'm in a good enough spot and have enough of a grasp of the issues and a certain, maturity about it, and know what it takes, the sacrifices, to make this run for, a higher office and be the mayor of the town.
Absolutely. Seems like you have the proper training to be a great leader. You must first be a great follower, student of the
Absolutely.
training you've learned in the background. What about military? First, which branch?
Army and member of the National Guard now.
Oh, thank you for your service. Let's say that.
Appreciate the support. Thank you.
No problem. Now, what have you taken or what will you be taking from that experience? That you probably have so many stories and experiences to share. We won't get into that, but
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are you going to take from the experiences?
Yeah. I the thing I enjoy the most, the two things that I enjoy the most, I'm very much a people person. I'm extroverted. I've got a love of people. It's been a phenomenal being a member of the military has been a phenomenal opportunity and very fulfilling to me to meet so many different people from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Folks from different parts of the country, folks in the different countries, that I've been as a result of being in the military. It's unlike anything else. And in addition to, I like that, the just being a part of something bigger than yourself,
Right.
and selfless service. And, I'll also say this, it is such a change of pace when I have to switch back into, Army mode, if you will, for my drill weekends or AT or, my last deployment. But I actually find it a lot less stressful than my day to day with work and Board of Ed actually and being involved, because it can be very demanding,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you have people who come to you with their issues, their problems, they need help, and that's the job, and I'm happy to do it. But like anything else, you got to find that balance. You've got limits for things, and so when I do go get to be a soldier, it's kind of nice to be one of the Joes. And the military, they tell you where to be, what time, what uniform, and they tell you how to do what they want you to do. So I can kind of shut my brain off and coast, a little bit, right?
I
It's nice to
understand.
not, be the person that everybody's necessarily, coming to all the time. But I love the men and women I serve with and folks I met along the way, and again, just being a part of something bigger than myself.
Nice.
But I've learned a lot about leadership and to your point earlier, following, and just how to work with people collaboratively. That's something I don't see that this current administration and even past ones have done a good job of, and not just working well with the folks on town council or the board of ed, but the community members and the different advocacy groups or constituent groups, and getting folks to the table and valuing everyone's experiences and their opinions, and their feedback and input. I'm very much an open book and happy to consider new ideas and perspectives. I don't know anything, um, compared to other folks, right? And everything that's out there. So I have no problem reaching out to somebody who is more knowledgeable on that issue and asking
Eh,
them, well, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts?
nice.
And there's no shame in that. So that ability to work with different people and still accomplish a mission, and on the military side, has definitely helped me to find success as a board of ed member, and hopefully as Hamden's next mayor.
Yes. And speaking of, you brought up a great point. As Hamden's next mayor, that becomes your title and your position. And you have the mother or the father, the parent that comes to you, and they are concerned about the excessive fighting that's happening over at Hamden High School. What would you say to that person, that family?
Yeah, it's a challenging issue, and I hear that, right, and that is a concern that I hear from parents that have children at the high school. But it gets back to my vision and what I see as the biggest issue that's really holding us back from getting to where we'd like to be and improving the town situation. Is the finances. In a lot of those years where we were flat funded or given less than we sought for an increase to maintain operations, we've had to cut staff and programming, and some of that has been staff, social workers or psychologists or programs that offer, various behavioral health supports. I mean, one thing that the entire nation's dealing with with regards to children in school, it's just a lot of learning loss and some of the, dysregulation, behavioral issues, that took place of students essentially not being in school and in person for 2 years.
The COVID, yeah.
Yeah, and then these students are now back in the buildings, and it's been tough to really get the supports that I feel are truly adequate, to help these children adjust and get the help that they need, and our community at large, really. So I would say to that family specifically, we've got to find a way to manage our budget and finances and be intentional, so that we can provide the supports, to help these students. I mean, I personally, I'm very disappointed with how the town of Hamden has allocated their ARPA funds, which is the money we receive from the federal government, to help offset broadly the harm that was caused by COVID. The town
Hmm.
of Hamden got $18 million from the federal government to be used at our discretion on a litany of things. And I was very glad to see right next door, New Haven Public Schools took a portion of that ARPA money and partnered with 10 local nonprofits, um, to specifically address the very high rates of chronically absentee children in town.
Hmm.
which Hamden too is also suffering from. I think our number is 34, 35%. In the years leading up to COVID, we worked very hard to get that number down to 14, 13%. It was trending down,
Wow.
but it shot up after COVID. New Haven said, let's take some ARPA money, partner with these 10 nonprofits, and sent caseworkers to the homes of these
Oh,
children to find out what was going on. How come they weren't in school? You have, it's because you don't have food on the table, or your lights aren't on, or you're getting bullied. You've got anxiety, stress, depression.
how can
Let's
we
find
help?
out what the issues exactly. How
Hmm.
can we help? What do we need to do to make you whole and get you right so that you can come back to school?
Right.
Um, I, Brilliant. That's good public policy. We didn't do that in Hamden, unfortunately. The current mayor and the council have this plan where they want to build this community center on the site of the old Hamden Middle School
Yep.
and spend the overwhelming majority of the money on that. And I don't think we need to be in the business of building new, larger facilities to maintain and staff with our budget issues, frankly. But I think we have missed an opportunity to use that money to do some more of the impactful things that can help right now, right? That can help the family you referenced that has concerns about, the behavioral issues that are taking place at the high school or really across all the schools, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I would ask you, you just mentioned budget issues. If you, once you are in office, do you see the need to use any of the money to establish new positions in any capacity?
Um, that great question. Um, I That's a really great question because over the years with our budget issues, we've cut a lot,
Hmm.
and it seems that we've kind of, we've kind of cut our nose off to spite our face a bit, and in an attempt to be, a penny wise but a pound foolish. But our staff as a government, right? Those are the folks that are working, providing the services, making things happen. They're very much an investment, in our community. And I look at departments where we've cut funding from or staffing from to save money. But meanwhile, the work that has to get done
Hmm.
has only increased, right? And so now it takes a long time to hear back or get things done if you do get a call back, or you don't have enough people able to handle, the needs and the demand, of the community. So I think there's definitely areas where I'm looking to restructure,
Okay.
how we kind of operate as a town and see what departments, they're perfect example, economic development. That's a department that I see as a department that's concerned about investing in the town and returns a dollar amount for the money spent there.
Hmm.
So we have to kind of get away from looking at the budget as just money in and out. And well, this is costing us money. We get rid of it. We can save a little and maybe not raise taxes as much. But we need to look at certain expenditures as investments that will come
Right.
back 3 and 4 and 5 times fold, over a period of years. So we have to be long term and strategic. And that's why, for me, having a long term vision of what I want Hamden to be in 2030, for example, is helpful because then I can build a plan and have steps to get to that vision and see, well, actually, cutting this position is actually going to hurt us in the long run, right?
Hmm.
It may save us a couple thousand, 100,000 this year, but if we keep it, it has the potential to, make us several 100,000 over the course of years, rather, right? So we need to change our thought process about, certain expenditures. But again, being, smart and diligent with people's money and not being excessive or reckless in how we spend money,
Hmm.
because it's other people's money, right?
Absolutely.
And you need to be responsible. You've got to be a good steward of that. So it's a bit of a give and a take, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to be better in how we're structured and kind of operate so that when folks come into town hall to do their business, whatever that may be, they're
Right.
getting a quality product.
2 years. Do you think that's enough time before you start campaigning again to follow through with all of the things that you want to do?
Yeah. So no, it's not. It's a good start.
Hmm.
I plan to be pretty busy those 2 years and seek to get a lot of things started and accomplished and set us on the track. But it's going to take a period of years. I mean, we didn't get into the situation we're in overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. We can get out of it with a vision, with a plan, and something that's managed over a period of years. And I want to do my part to play a role in that in concert with the community in developing and implementing that plan. as we go through. But credit to the Charter Revision Commission, who revised our charter actually. So beginning in 2025, the mayor's term in Hamden will go to a 4-year term actually,
Oh,
because
okay.
a lot of folks expressed what you just brought up. 2 years isn't a lot of time
It's not enough
to
time.
do anything. It's really not, because 18 months into that, now you got to shift to kind of run again as well if you decide to seek reelection. So
Absolutely.
I think it's good that we're going to get to a point with 4-year terms. It's enough time to get in there and kind of adapt to being the mayor and learning the ins and outs and being able to get your staff situated and find your rhythm and make things happen and let folks see results or not see results, right?
Mhm.
But no, I don't think 2-year terms for mayors or first selectmen and women is the way to go. I think 4-year is a much better approach.
May the work that you have done speak for you on your platform. And by the way, what is your platform? Do you have a website so people can go and check it out?
I do. It's mortonformayor.com.
Very easy.
mortonformayor.com. Very easy platform. You can watch a couple videos about myself, see my bio, background, and also see my pretty detailed platform and solutions to the issues that I see and I hear from some residents. And you can also send me a message there or a note with any questions, comments, concerns you may have.
Last 5 minutes, I like to do top five, especially when I speak to candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So, two part. What are your top five qualities that people should know for this position? And the top five issues, concerns that you will address as soon as you get to office. So, let's start with your issues and concerns, top five.
Yeah. Um, Number one, without question, is the taxes in Hamden, which are very high and excessive in that regard. Um, that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe taxes and economic development are one and the same, and correlated, if you will, because if you want to lower taxes in our situation, the way to do that is to increase your tax base. So I would say taxes, economic development. The next two I would have as neck and neck, and public safety and crime and education.
Yeah.
Those are definitely the big three. If to answer your question with two more issues, one, I it's financial in nature, but I think the town, there's a lot of money to be saved. Um, One, but two, it's also the right thing to do. There's a lot of opportunity for us to um, modernize our existing facilities with regards to being greener,
Mm,
and getting our, so we're not paying as much on a yearly basis to keep buildings lit or heated and cooled.
yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity to do that and take advantage of various monies at the state and federal level that actually wouldn't cost the town a dime to do. So I think there's some low hanging fruit for us to be more sustainable and
Mhm.
conscious about our impact on the environment and individuals' health, while also saving money on the operation side.
Absolutely.
And if I had to go for a fifth issue, um, hmm, a top five, I would, what, I'd add this one. We've got to be better as a community and from our leaders again of working with everybody in town.
Yeah,
I'm
inclusive. I
running in
like
this Democratic primary and eventually a general, and I want to be the mayor of everybody in town. Regardless of what party you're affiliated with, if you even vote, the color of your skin, age, none of those things matter to me. I have a love of people for being people and who they are. And hey, under my administration, you live in town, you're a resident, and you want to move the town in the right direction and do your part to play a role. There's a seat for you at the table. Roll your sleeves up and let's do it together. So
I
the
love that. Being inclusive. Top five, what makes you the right man for the job?
uh, so top five. Um, I think what makes me the right person for the job is that I have a vision, and I do have a plan. Um, and I'm also open with the vision and the plan I have to hear other folks' input and feedback about what they'd like to see Hamden to be as well, in the
Nice.
next decade, for example. So having that vision and a plan as well as experience and a track record of proven success of being able to work with people and deliver things, whether it's on the Board of Ed or when I worked for the town actually for a period of years as their director of legislative affairs, um, bringing people to the table, getting things done. Couple other things that I think gives me an edge, if you will, or makes me the right man for the job is I very much grew up here and lived here, and my family's from here, and we're still here. I got a good. I like to think I've got a good a good finger on the pulse and the vibe of what's on residents' minds and how people in Hamden kind of think and operate and move. And don't get me wrong, I'm very much looking to kind of change how we have done things in town from a government perspective for a long time.
Yeah.
But I know the people and they know me, and I've got a great network in the community. I think those couple of things. I don't know if that was five specifically, but I think those several things I mentioned make me the right person for the job.
I love it. This has been wonderful. Walter Morton the fourth. Morton for mayor is what you said? Morton for mayor.
MortonForMayor.com.
I love that. I love that. And then if people want to help with your campaign, they would also go to the website for that as well.
Yes, absolutely. There's an opportunity for folks to sign up who want to volunteer, want to come knock doors with me one day after work or on the weekend, or you want to volunteer time to make phone calls or host an event, or you just want to ask me a question or tell me something, what's on your mind. You can do that, fill out a form. My email is also there. And for those that feel so inclined, you can also donate to the campaign, because it does cost money to run a campaign.
It definitely does.
And so you can find all that information in a pretty digestible and accessible manner on MortonForMayor.com.
Mr. Morton, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Before I wrap up and close out, any last words you want to share with our listeners?
Thank you for the opportunity this evening, Wanda. Thanks for those tuning in this evening and listening. I've had a blast. We'll love to come back down the road, maybe as we get a little closer to the election. But thank you for your time. And for those who are in Hamden, I hope that you get registered to vote for September 12th as a Democrat, to vote in the Democratic primary that's taking place on that date. And please visit my website to find out more information about me and also find out how to contact me and get in touch with me.
Our door and our airwaves are always open to you. You can come back at any time.
Thank you
And
so much.
If you missed any of the interview and any of the key points, we're going to post the video, so you can check for the video that will be on my Facebook page and on the YBC website. And I just want you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. You have more music on the way. Join me back next Sunday for another great conversation with our community leaders right here on the Electric Drum. I am Wanda Coppage, 94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. Enjoy the rest of your day.